So today I figured I would bring you along and show you an update on my lima beans. They are very, very tall and they are full of blossoms and flower buds. You can see all of them have started blossoming and they're starting to make lima beans. Look at that itty bitty lima bean right there between those two flowers. It's so small. There's another one right there. So these are my favorite lima beans to grow. I live in Southwest Florida, Zone 10A. Some places here are 9B, but where I'm at specifically, it's 10A. And there's not a lot of things you can grow through the summers here that will produce all summer long. And this is one of those plants that you can grow all summer long. So, I usually plant these when it starts getting hot. I can plant them pretty much all year round here. I've grown them in the fall. I've also grown them in the spring and the summer. And my favorite time is to plant them in the summer because they're one of the few things that will grow really well here. And I really don't space them as much as the packets say to. I've seen bean spacing anywhere from 4 inches to all the way up to a foot. And I don't really find that necessary when I put them up on the trellis. So I don't know if you can really see, but some of these are closer. That might be 2 inches. And some of them are farther. That might be 4 inches. I try to do one at every post here at the bottom of the cattle panel, and they just grow. One of the common things that you'll see with beans, pole beans, is aphids. That's really one of the few pests that I've seen here. And what I do is I just spray them with my hose, and I take you might be able to do it without gloves, but I don't. I take my gloves after I spray it and I just wipe the aphids off. And that's it. If you allow the aphids to stay on your bean plants, when I first found aphids on my plants, I didn't really know what they were, and I let them stay on there because I didn't know how to get rid of them and I didn't want to touch them. I didn't know what they were. And I ended up with really bumpy, misshaped beans when I harvested them, and a lot of the beans inside were no good to eat. And so they can really ruin some of your harvest. So I do not fertilize my beans at all. Beans are high in nitrogen, and they do not require any type of fertilization at all. They do like sandy, loamy soil. So I do use compost in the soil before planting them, and then after I plant them out, I don't feed them at all. They're already rich in nitrogen. If you decide to give your beans a good fertilization, you will have lush, beautiful foliage, and your bean blossoms will fall off and you won't have any beans on your plant, or there will be very few. There's a beautiful butterfly on an illumination zinnia. They're so pretty. This is why I always plant zinnias in the summer. It grows beautifully here. Next year, I'd like to try growing them a little denser, closer together. But I love seeing the beautiful butterflies all over my garden. And the bees love them too. So I do water these every day, once a day, and as they are maturing, I really don't have to water them every day. I could get away with watering them every other day, but I want them to be nice and healthy and strong. Where I live, it's very, very hot, and I find that this time of year, it hasn't started raining yet regularly, and so I've just been giving them a good sprinkling every day in the evening time, and they've been doing great. It's important when you're watering your beans to not get the foliage wet. I'll show you why. I try my best to water at the base of the plant only. If you do, you will get brown edges around your plants like this. This is where I water at the base, and so the leaves down here don't look nearly as healthy as they do up top. They're still healthy, but the water, what happens is if you water them in the middle of the day or too late in the morning, the sun will burn the water droplets onto the leaves, and it will burn them. It will burn the leaves, the foliage, and then your plant will not look very well. And if you're watering all the foliage, it can be a big problem and take a lot of the energy from your bean plants. Instead of using it for flowers and food, it's gonna be trying to repair its foliage. So we don't wanna do that. So that's why I do bottom watering the best that I can. Okay, so here is an example of aphids. Let's see if I can get that in a different light. Those are aphids on the bottom of this leaf. And I know that they're aphids. There's an ant there too. I'm just going to pick this off and give it to my chickens, but you can do what I said, spray them off, wipe them off. I don't like touching them, so I'm just gonna give this to my chickens. But that's what they look like. This is another kind of bean that I'm growing. These are purple potted yard-long beans. They're a variety of yard-long beans. They're beautiful. They're like a red-violet color. More on the purple side than red. They're gorgeous. You can see I have my first flower buds right here. And they have these pretty cream colored flowers with the red in the bud there. They're beautiful. There's some more. I see ants all over them, so hopefully they're not farming the aphids. The ants actually eat aphids and they farm them. I believe they eat them, but I know that they farm them. They help them live, to keep, like, they farm them so that they have food. So if you see ants, I wouldn't be alarmed, but just keep an eye out for aphids. So these beans have finally started vining. I planted these purple potted yard-long beans the same day. I sowed them in the ground the same day in the same spacing as these Christmas pole lima beans. And you can see that the Christmas pole lima bean is an earlier variety. It's starting to set fruit and it's vined quite a bit quicker. It's all the way up to the top of the trellis. These will also get very, very tall to the top of the trellis as well. They're just a little slower to start, and that's okay. They're healthy. They're putting off runners. And I love these beans. I like to saute them in stir fries. They're a little tougher. They're not like a green bean. You can boil them and make them softer. But I personally haven't tried that yet. I should try that. But they're crunchier. My kids really like to eat them raw. And they're beautiful. They look very stunning just hanging off of the trellises when they're in full production, and they get quite high up there. So you can tell that the leaves look quite a bit different. These yard-long beans have a darker green and I would say like twice the size of these Christmas pole lima bean leaves, and that's okay. That actually was helpful to me. Here's the Christmas pole lima, much smaller and lighter green. And these are more of a sticky leaf, where these are more, they have like a gloss on them and they're not sticky at all. And this actually was helpful because I was wondering earlier when last year in the fall through the winter, I planted here rattlesnake pole green beans. And I had a bean on one of these, and it was already vining all the way up to here. And I'm like, why is that one vining and none of the others were? Now this one's vining, but it wasn't before. They weren't before. And I noticed the leaves on them, and I realized that is a Christmas pole lime, not Christmas pole lime bean, I'm sorry. That is a rattlesnake pole bean, green bean. They're like green with a purple streaks in them. They're beautiful, very productive, but they don't put off beans in the summer here. So I was like, oh, I don't want that here. It's just a waste of space. It's not going to give me any food. So I did pull it out. I had a ton of them. I had more than I knew what to do with those beans, and I had like a ton of them I had to pull out. I had them growing in my walkway here, in the blocks, all around under my pepper. Let's see if I can find one. I may have pulled them all out, but I had quite a few on this side as well. These are Armenian yard-long cucumbers. I'm trying these out for the first time this year. And they are getting buggy, and they're taking quite a long time to grow cucumbers. We'll just see. So over in this garden bed, I did plant out some more beans. I'm trying out the red swan bush beans on this side and the Roma 2 bush beans on this side. As you can see, they're starting to sprout. There's one here. This is the Roma 2 bush bean. There's one there coming up. Another one right there. This obviously is pesky grass that I can't get out. And then quite a bit of the red swan bush beans are sprouting as well. Here. There's another one over there. There's one there. You can see the little bend in the stem. So I've noticed that more of the red swan bush beans are sprouting than the Roma 2 bush beans. I bought them from the same place where I get all my seeds. And I've always had great germination with them. I don't think that's the problem. I did look at the seed packets after I had planted them and realized that the Roma bush bean actually says it does better up to 85 degrees. And the red swan bush bean does better, I think it said 90 to 95 degrees. So it is hot here. It's been in the 90s during the day. And so I'm assuming that it's because of the heat. So I'm gonna see what comes up. And if I have any bare spots, I'll just fill them with other things. Also over here, I planted the hyacinth moon shadow beans. And they are coming up. I planted some on this, and then this one, I don't know what happened, but it died, so I am gonna just leave this here. And I was thinking about putting a pretty zinnia in the corner, or a sunflower. And then I also planted a couple on this side. There's a pepper here. It's been growing here, and I wasn't gonna move it. I also planted some over on this side, and none of them sprouted. And then yesterday I was working in my garden, and I found one of the seeds displaced like on the other side, and I'm wondering if a bird picked it up. So I'm probably gonna replant some more on this side today, so I don't have like a bare space on this side of my cattle panel trellis. So I really enjoy bush beans. The only difference that I find, I do prefer a pole bean variety because it's easier to see the beans when they're dangling down on an archway. And also, I mean, you can of course buy colored varieties of beans. Like this is the red swan. They're red beans. They'll be quite easy to see against green foliage. Much easier than the Roma green beans. But also I find that you have to be very careful harvesting from a bush bean. It's quite easy to damage the foliage and the stems as you're harvesting them, moving the bushes aside to look underneath of them. Where on a pole, you can easily just pick them off without moving the leaves quite as much. So there are some negatives and positives to growing pole versus bush. I also just love the space saving aspect of it. This is easily maybe 12 plants just in this maybe 4-foot section right along here. And on the other side of it, I have planted 2 rows of tomatoes right up against it, and it's not bothered at all. It doesn't bother it at all. Where the other bush beans obviously take up quite a bit more space. If you have a large garden, it's okay. You don't really need to worry about that, but if you are in a smaller garden, I would definitely recommend using some kind of trellis for your beans. So that's all the beans that I'm growing right now. I have 5 different varieties. The 2 bush, the purple hyacinth, which is classified as a winged bean, which I've never grown them before, but I'm looking forward to seeing them. Apparently they have beautiful purple foliage. I have the purple potted yard long beans and the Christmas pole lima beans over there. And I'm going to show you what I did yesterday in my garden. Okay, so over in this garden bed, I planted all of this out yesterday, the big things that you see. Previously, I had planted out sunflower seeds, and I have a lot of birds in my garden. There's birds out here every day, and I see them, and they get into where I direct sow seeds, and they pick the seeds out and eat them. So I didn't get a lot of germination, and it wasn't my fault or the seed starter's fault. But I have a sprout here. That's actually a Mongolian giant sunflower, and I can see that because the seed head is right here, and they're very large. And then I have some other sunflowers popping up throughout, and that's fine. I'll just leave them there. I did plant zinnias all around. I'm not sure if the birds ate those or not, but I keep watering and maybe they'll pop up. So what I did plant out is these pineapples and sweet potato vines. These were both gifts to me. My aunt started a pineapple, and it had 2 pups pop up in the pot, and she gave them to me. So I separated them yesterday, and I put them in here. And then I thought these sweet potatoes would make a really nice ground covering around the pineapples and the sunflowers. And these sweet potatoes are actually a white sweet potato. My friend Katie gave them to me. I believe she said that a lot of people in Jamaica grow them. And so she gave me quite a few starts, which was really nice. And so I planted them in here. They've been in my kitchen window. I wasn't sure where to plant them, but then I realized, oh, I have this whole garden bed that I did with sunflowers. These would look really nice around the bottom of them. And so I just added the pineapples and these sweet potatoes in here to go along the bottom. And I think that would be really nice to see when it's growing in. Over here, you can see I have a little sunflower sprout popping up right near that little sweet potato vine. I love seeing the bends in the stem as they're popping up. It's very exciting. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm looking forward to seeing this all fill in and grow throughout the summer. The pineapples will be a permanent thing in this garden bed, and I think that's really exciting. They do take, I believe it's 1 year, like you have to wait till they're 2 years old to make a pineapple, or 1 full year. I'm not sure which. I have to do my research. But she did start these, my aunt did start these from pineapple tops. She cut them off and rooted them in a cup of water, and they grew roots. She has a whole bunch of them, and I just think that is so awesome. Like, if you don't have a lot of money, just try to grow what you get from the grocery store. I think that's such an awesome idea. And here I have 3 pineapple plants, all from one pineapple top that she bought at the grocery store. How awesome.